If you have an informed opinion on any given topic, then let your voice be heard. That is what we do on Express Yourself. Express Yourself is a production of the Drury University Department of Communication and the Drury University Debate Union, where we teach students the arts and skills of debating and then apply those skills in various forms of civil discourse. This week's panelists are Alexander Long, a senior from Mount Vernon, Missouri. He is majoring in psychology and plans to be a lawyer. Alex's favorite speaker of all time is Ronald Reagan. Chris Cassidy, a senior from Springfield, Missouri. He is majoring in criminology and sociology, and he plans on earning his doctorate and continue researching. His favorite speaker is Ronald Reagan. Haley Davis, a freshman from Nashville, Tennessee. She is majoring in advertising and public relations, whose future plans involve being a copywriter. And her favorite speaker is John Mulaney. Austin Cassidy, a junior from Springfield, Missouri. He is majoring in multimedia production and journalism, and his favorite speaker is John F. Kennedy. And our moderator tonight is Dr. Charles DeBerry. He obtained his PhD at the University of Kansas in Organizational Communication and Human Relations. He is a former jury debater and is now leader of the Jury Debate Union. Here's Charlie.
Thank you and welcome to the program. As we noted in an earlier program, this has been a bizarre election year in the United States, and there's been some pretty unusual events going on. One of the people who are running for president is Senator Bernie Sanders, and a few months ago we had a show in which we discussed Senator Sanders, and we thought it was very unlikely that anyone would still be talking about him. Some of those in our program thought it was highly unlikely that Bernie Sanders would ever get any traction. It's probably me, but anyway, I didn't think he would get any traction because the Democratic Party, the machine, and now the President of the United States have both made it very clear that they prefer Hillary Clinton to be the Democratic nominee. The way power politics works in this country is if the Democratic Party wants Hillary Clinton, for example, to be president or to be their presidential nominee, she probably will be. However, Bernie Sanders has won 7 of the last 8 primary elections or caucuses. He may not be able to ever catch up with Hillary Clinton, but there is something about the message that is clearly resonating with many voters, and I know just a couple of nights ago his percentage of wins in the state of Wisconsin was something like 47% of people, or virtually everyone under the age of 47, something like that. Anyway, he is starting to get under Hillary's skin. She struck out at him yesterday saying that he's just not fit to be president, and he responded with a litany of arguments saying that she's not qualified to be president. So what we want to focus on in this program is the Sanders message. What is the Sanders message? And because it's obviously something that's appealing to people. I thought I'd start with Haley. She likes Bernie. She likes Bernie Sanders. Tell us about him.
Okay, so Bernie is he's not wanting to dismantle capitalism. He's wanting to just reform it and regulate it, and he's wanting to break up businesses that are too big to fail on Wall Street, and he's wanting to, in his own words, create an economy that works for all, not just the very wealthy. And the way he wants to do this is by he's pulling off of Nordic countries and off of FDR's unrealized policies. And what he wants to do is he wants to provide security in what people need, such as housing and education, and just make the economy and capitalism just work better, but by tweaking it with some welfare and public spending.
I'd like to add on, the reason why people are voting for her so much is she is the most real candidate that we've seen on the election trail. I mean, you look at someone like Hillary Clinton, she's flip-flopped on almost every position there is. And you look at Sanders, he's back in the 60s campaigning for civil rights movement. I mean, he is the most real there is. And then you also look at the GOP field. You look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump some people say he has another personality hiding behind the curtains that's really presidential. But we want to have someone who's always like that, not just might have that attribute. So people are going to vote for him because he is the most real candidate. And if you look at Hillary Clinton, her top five donors, 4 of them are from Wall Street. And his campaign is almost all, it's a grassroots campaign. It's the people supporting him, not big money or big banks.
So before we go on, I would have a question for Haley. The proposition that Sanders is bringing up with bringing in more socialist aspect into the economy is basically trying to bring the lower people up. So it's trying to lower the gap between pays.
Yeah, he's just trying to close the gap, not necessarily completely dismantle like all classes, but just make the gap narrower. So instead of bringing people down, it's just making it better and more easy.
If his plan wouldn't make it better and it wouldn't narrow that gap at all, then we shouldn't follow that, correct?
What do you mean?
In these Nordic countries he's talking about, where he's saying that this thing is working right now, they actually have a very big gap between those who have less money and those who have a lot of money. There's a huge gap there, which shows that even if it is working in some aspects, it's not doing that, and that's what he's wanting.
Well, currently, in the United States, this problem is becoming bigger, and electing the people who've already made this gap big is not going to solve the problem. You can find economics professors from anywhere to support or deny any candidate, but for example, Gerald Friedman is a University of Massachusetts of Amherst economics professor, and some of the stuff he says is very beneficial towards Bernie, saying it's he'll reduce unemployment 3.8%, the median income will rise to $22,000, and that he'll create 26 million jobs. But the point is that anyone can find any information that says this won't work, this will work. But with so many different schools of economic thought, you can find anyone to endorse anything.
Well, let's look at it on the global scale. Why would you want to, since 1970, over 15 million industrial jobs have left the United States because they can hire cheaper labor in third world countries. So why would you ever want to increase the chance of them moving away?
Well, Bernie's actually addressing that. He's going to, I don't want to use the word tariffs, but it is a tariff on moving overseas. And so he's actually wanting to encourage more domestic manufacturing.
And he's getting on that train, like Donald Trump's been saying, he wants to bring more businesses back to America. Well, he plans on doing that and at the same time lowering the gap between wealthy and the lower class.
Okay, so back to that. You're saying that we can find anybody who supports things. There's a lot of different thoughts of economics and how things will work out. But I'm not talking thoughts and theories. I'm talking facts. If you look at those Nordic countries, they used to be extremely capitalistic.
However,
extremely capitalistic, which means where they used to be made them to where they are now. It grew them. They had an extreme boom when they had this more capitalistic free market type economic system. They had a huge boom. There was less of a gap. And then they brought in more socialist ideas. When they first brought in a lot of socialist ideas, it tanked them. They took some of them away, and that's where they are now.
But this is America. This isn't Scandinavia.
But now you're saying that it's not Scandinavia, and first you were saying that it could be Scandinavia, and we could make it like Scandinavia.
You can't go fully one thing or the other. Like, you can't just go completely socialist, like, all at once. And you can't just be completely capitalist. Like, you have to tweak, like, each of the things. And so their problem was, they put in too much at once, and that was something that they needed to be careful about. But then when they took them away, and it was just kind of like a combination, because they are free market economies, but they do have socialist things in place.
But now that they've taken some of those socialist things away, they're back at what you could basically say is kind of like how we are, with big gaps between those who are paid little and those who are paid a lot.
And let's just look at it on a basic economic level. I mean, for a corporation currently to make money, first off, they can, considering the price of the commodities as a base rate, they either have to lower the wages of employees to then sell their goods at a less value, or they can increase the consumption of the goods and by producing more goods. Currently, Therefore, if you were to raise the minimum wage to say $15 an hour, like Bernie is proposing, then what that's going to do is that's going to raise the price of the goods because they're already at that minimum. They're already taking everything at that minimum cost. So really, it's not going to work out because everyone's going to be spending more money as well.
What he really wants to do is he's tweaking the model. We're already a democratic socialist nation. All he wants to do is tweak it slightly to make it to lower that income gap between the rich and the poor, which will work because you get people all over endorsing him, and endorsing other people as well. But I don't think the way you get changed in the right direction, because currently we're going in the wrong direction with our economic policies under Obama, which is exactly what Hillary will give us if she's the next president. We need someone new who's going to change the direction of the current way the U.S. is trending.
And the thing about the economics of raising the minimum wage that you said, the minimum wage doesn't keep up with inflation. And so currently it does not have, our minimum wage does not have the same buying power as it used to have. And it has been raised 22 times since 1938. And that's only to keep up with inflation. So if we did raise it to $15 an hour, it would actually be about it would be equivalent to how it used to be and would have appropriate buying power. And also $15 an hour is not unheard of in capitalist societies because in Switzerland they don't have minimum wage, but the average minimum that they do have is about 20 Swiss francs an hour.
You're right there, but the thing with Switzerland is it's a different story, is because they don't have a backup supply of labor like we have in the U.S. Currently, we've lost over 15 million manufacturing jobs. McDonald's currently in the U.S. has received over 500,000 applications for potential jobs, to which they're only able to accept a fraction of those. There are people out here. We have a reserve labor force right now who needs work, and because of that, corporations are able to drive down the price of wages. Furthermore, they would be able to just go over to another country, a third world country, because we have trade policies in effect such as NAFTA and the World Bank and the IMF, to which we have to obey these trade laws. And if we do put tariffs on to prevent these companies from moving, like you suggested earlier, then those countries are just going to put tariffs back. Like I was saying, the price of commodities is going to skyrocket because of those tariffs. We're not going to have access to those free resources to produce the goods for the companies. So you're going to be seeing goods skyrocket. And this even happened back right before the Great Depression, when President Hoover even initiated tariffs on countries. And you saw this exact same happen. And some economists say this is what caused the Great Depression.
Okay, well, you guys you're doing a great job, and we have to start wrapping this up. But what I'm hearing is that there's some great ideas some ideas that people find very appealing. I don't know if they're great ideas or not, but there's some ideas that people find very appealing, and that they are. But there does seem to be some devil in the details as to whether or not the ideas would actually work. And I think that's what Alex was asking. He goes, it's all fine, but what if it doesn't work? And but there's so many different issues we could go here. I noticed that in one area where they've increased minimum wage to $15 an hour, they are now being competitive by saying, okay, you employees can no longer make tips. And many employees are very unhappy because they made a lot more money making tips at a lower wage than they are working for $15 an hour and so forth. So there's a lot of problems with this tweaking, and obviously we need to devote more time to it. We don't have it today, but it's obviously appealing to a whole lot of people because he is growing in popularity, and Hillary Clinton is very tired of him being a thorn in her side. So thank you. Well, I want to ask you one last question, and that is he going to have any influence at the end of this? So we'll have to make this fairly quick. Is he going to have any influence at the end of this? Is he going to change is it going to break for him at the end, or is he just influencing the platform? Give me a quick answer, if you would, please.
I've met a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who, if Bernie Sanders is not the nominee, will vote for the GOP candidate in the general election. So he's bringing a new set of voters into an enthusiasm into the democratic election process that they need to have. And if they stick with the same thing they've always stuck to, they're not going to see any growth in their party. They're going to see the same problems with stagnation and that the GOP establishment party has seen.
All right, Haley?
I think you've mentioned a few times that he's already been like pushing Hillary into kind of like the same, making similar policies and promises that he has. So in that regard, he will have some influences if she is the candidate instead. But yeah, like he said, like there's just like a whole lot of new enthusiasm, whereas we've all been kind of jaded to politics in the past, maybe. But
Right. Tremendous numbers of independents coming out that may break for the Republicans, as you said, if they can't vote for Sanders. And I think, in fact, it was a new voting record in Wisconsin of people coming out to vote purely because of the Sanders being on the issue. Go ahead, let's.
Well, Bernie's going to have to find a way to get the super delegates over to his side. I mean, if you look back, Barack Obama was able to get the super delegates. Originally, they weren't supporting him, but then they all switched over to him later in the election. This exact same thing's going to have to happen to Bernie if he ever even has a hope of winning this. But also, the super delegates didn't switch over until Barack Obama was really closing in the gap. Currently, Bernie is doing this, but the question really is this enough? Furthermore, if the super delegates do switch over, then he will have a good chance. If he can't get the super delegates, then he might as well just give up now.
Okay, Alex, wrap it up.
I'm not sure if he'll make it this time, but I think he'll come back the next time and try again. I think he'll continue to have a certain amount of influence in places because he has shaken politics.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. It's not very far off that we're going to know some of these answers. Thank you very much, panelists. An excellent job tonight. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to today's session. If you would like to see more examples of Express Yourself, you can go to drury.edu/debate, and you'll see something there you can click on that says videos. And remember, the next time you have a difference of opinion on any given topic, keep emotions out of it, stick to the facts, and never make it personal. Then when you're ready, you can express yourself. Thanks again. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.